Hey everyone! Welcome back to English Medium, the place where English feels less like a subject and more like a conversation you actually want to join. Today, we're slowing down a little because the world feels loud, and sometimes the loudest thing we need is a calm voice.
And that's exactly why we're here. Mistakes are welcome, overthinking is optional, and learning should feel natural, like breathing, not like an exam you forgot to study for. So yes, today we're talking softly but seriously about something big: peace.
I'm Lily, and I want to start with a feeling almost everyone knows. You open your phone for a minute, maybe just to check one message, and suddenly you're standing in the middle of opinions, arguments, jokes, anger, and 1,000 tiny reactions.
It's like walking into a room where everybody is speaking at once and nobody is really listening. The noise doesn't stay on the screen either. After a while, it follows you into your mood, your thoughts, even the way you speak to people around you.
So today's question is simple, but it carries a lot of weight. Is peace still possible in today's world? Not a perfect peace, not a movie version, just real peace that people can feel in ordinary life, in ordinary homes, on ordinary days.
And before anybody jumps to conclusions, let's be clear. We are not doing politics, and we are not deciding who is right or wrong. We're talking about people, because behind every headline, there is a person trying to make it through the day.
Exactly. Real people want simple things. They want a normal morning, a safe afternoon, and a night where they can sleep without their mind racing. They want to eat, work, laugh, rest, and breathe without feeling like the world is always collapsing.
Honestly, a boring day can be a beautiful day. A quiet cup of tea, a small walk, a message from someone kind, a little time with no pressure, no shouting, no emergencies. For many people, that kind of boring is not boring at all. It is precious.
Let me ask you something, Mike. When your mind feels crowded, not exactly sad, just full, what do you do first? I mean, what is that one tiny habit that helps you get your balance back before everything feels too heavy?
I usually fix one small thing. I tidy my desk, I organize my bag, or I clear the screen on my phone. It sounds almost silly, but one small corner becoming orderly can remind me that not everything is chaos, even when life feels messy.
I love that. It's like telling your brain, hey, we cannot solve the entire world right now, but we can create a little bit of calm right here. For me, it's often silence, or standing outside for a minute and just letting the air slow me down.
Yes, that tiny pause matters. We could call it micro peace, maybe. Those little moments that don't look dramatic from the outside, but inside, they change the whole temperature of your thoughts. Tiny calm can be stronger than loud panic.
Micro peace sounds perfect. It reminds me that peace is not always a huge event with cameras and speeches. Sometimes peace is choosing not to react immediately. Sometimes it is lowering your voice, or taking a breath, or waiting one extra second.
And that extra second can change everything. We often imagine peace as something far away, like a treaty signed by leaders or a moment on the world stage. But maybe peace begins closer than that, in the way you answer a text or the way you listen.
That idea matters a lot, because if peace is only something big and distant, then most people will think it belongs to governments, not to everyday life. But if peace can live in a conversation, then it becomes something personal and possible.
Right, and that means it shows up in simple places. It shows up when you disagree with someone and do not rush to attack. It shows up when you hear something uncomfortable and still stay respectful. It shows up when you choose patience over pride.
Quick English moment for our listeners. The word trigger means something that causes a strong emotional reaction. A comment can trigger anger, embarrassment, fear, or sadness. It is a useful word because it helps us name what happens inside us.
Trigger. That is a word people hear a lot online, and for good reason. One post, one sentence, one sarcastic reply, and suddenly feelings are flying everywhere. The reaction is often bigger than the moment itself, but it feels immediate and real.
That is part of why conflict grows so fast now. We see something, we feel something, and we answer before we understand. There's no pause, no breath, just reaction. And when reaction becomes a habit, it starts to shape the whole conversation.
Exactly. The first problem is often assumption. We decide we already know who someone is, what they believe, or why they said something, without checking. We create a story in our heads, and then we respond to the story instead of the person.
An assumption is something you believe is true without checking, like saying, they must be rude, or they always think this way, or people from that group are all the same. Those thoughts can appear quickly, but they can also be deeply unfair.
And assumptions rarely stay alone. They usually invite judgment, then distance, then rejection, then hostility. It can happen so quietly that people don't even notice the chain until the conversation is already broken and everybody is defending themselves.
Hostility means strong anger or aggression towards someone. It is more than disagreement. It is the feeling that turns conversation into attack. And once hostility takes over, the real subject disappears because everybody is busy protecting their pride.
That's such an important point. A disagreement is not automatically a disaster. Two people can see the same issue differently and still stay respectful. Conflict becomes dangerous when the goal is no longer understanding, but winning at any cost.
And social media can make that danger grow faster. It rewards speed, not reflection. People post instantly, reply instantly, judge instantly, and share instantly. The platform often gives more attention to the loudest reaction than to the wisest thought.
Which means people forget there is a human being on the other side of the screen. A stranger becomes a target. A name becomes a profile, and a profile becomes an enemy. But if that same sentence were spoken face to face, the tone might change completely.
Imagine this for a second. Every comment you read online is spoken in person, with eye contact, with a real face, with a real voice. The internet would probably become very quiet. Maybe not silent, but definitely more careful.
Careful is good. Careful gives space for thought, and thought gives space for empathy. Without that space, people build invisible walls. They stop reading anything that challenges them, and they only stay in places where their own ideas keep echoing back.
That is what people mean by an echo chamber, right? A space where you only hear opinions similar to your own. It can feel comfortable at first because nothing pushes back, but comfort is not always truth. Sometimes challenge is what keeps us honest.
Exactly. If every voice around you repeats the same view, your belief can start to feel stronger than it really is. It might feel complete when it is actually incomplete. That is why listening to different people is not a threat, it is a gift.
I think that is one of the hardest lessons in modern life. We want to feel safe, and yes, we do need safety. But if safety turns into total isolation from different opinions, then we lose the chance to grow, question, and understand the bigger picture.
So the question becomes practical. If peace is possible, what do we actually do with that idea on a normal Tuesday? Because most people are not standing on a stage making huge decisions. They're at work, at school, online, in traffic, in family conversations.
And that is exactly where peace needs to live. Not only in speeches, but in habits. Not only in plans, but in reactions. Not only in the world, but in the minute-by-minute choices we make when nobody is applauding and nobody is keeping score.
One of the simplest choices is listening. Not listening while preparing your reply, not listening just to find a mistake, but really listening. That kind of attention says, I believe you are worth understanding, even if we end up disagreeing.
That is huge. Another simple choice is saying, I see your point, even when you do not fully share it. Those words do not mean surrender. They mean respect. They mean you are willing to recognize another human being before you protect your own opinion.
And sometimes, peace looks like a question. Instead of accusing someone right away, you ask, what did you mean by that? Or, can you tell me more? Questions open doors. Accusations usually close them before the conversation has a chance to breathe.
An accusation is when you say someone did something wrong, often without full understanding. It can land like a stone. Even if you are upset, pausing to ask first can change the whole direction of the talk. Curiosity is often calmer than certainty.
That does not mean we never challenge anything. It just means challenge can be respectful. You can say, I disagree, and still be kind. You can say, I need time to think, and still be honest. You can disagree without becoming a storm.
I like that idea. Disagreement without a storm. Because a lot of people think peace means being passive, silent, or weak. But real peace is often very active. It takes effort to stay calm when emotions are high and reactions are ready to explode.
Absolutely. It takes strength to not answer with the first sharp sentence that comes to mind. It takes control to notice your own anger and not let it drive the whole conversation. It takes maturity to say, I'm upset, but I do not want to hurt you.
That kind of maturity is rare, but it can be learned. I think people sometimes wait for peace to arrive from outside, from leaders, from systems, from some future moment when everything is better. But peace is also a skill, and skills are practiced.
Yes, practiced one moment at a time. The more you choose calm, the easier calm becomes. The more you choose reflection, the easier reflection becomes. That does not mean life gets easy, but it means you are less likely to be controlled by every impulse.
Let's pause here and make this personal for a second. If you are listening right now, think about the last time you felt triggered. Was it a comment, a message, a look, a tone of voice, or even your own self-talk? That moment tells you something.
It tells you where your pressure points are. And that is not a bad thing to know. If you understand what pushes your buttons, you can respond more wisely next time. Awareness is not weakness. It is the first step toward real control.
I completely agree. Sometimes the goal is not to pretend you do not feel anything. The goal is to feel something and still stay respectful. That is different. That is stronger. It is not coldness, it is emotional discipline.
And emotional discipline matters in families, friendships, classrooms, offices, and online spaces. The world may feel huge, but your tone in one conversation can change the atmosphere of an entire room. Peace often enters through a small door like that.
A small door, yes. A small sentence. a small pause, a small kindness. These things may look tiny, but they can interrupt a cycle. If one person slows down, the whole conversation may slow down with them. That is not nothing. That is not nothing.
Not at all. In fact, a small interruption can stop a bigger problem from growing. People usually remember how you made them feel more than the exact words you used. If they feel respected, they are more likely to stay open.
That is why tone matters so much. The same sentence can sound like care or like attack, depending on the way it is spoken. So peace is not only about the message, it is also about the delivery, the rhythm, the patience behind it.
And listening is part of delivery too. When you rush, people feel pushed. When you pause, people feel seen. That pause can be a quiet signal that says, I am not here to defeat you. I am here to understand what is really going on.
Sometimes the world rewards fast reactions, but fast is not always wise. A quick reply can feel powerful for a second and painful for a long time. A slower reply may feel less dramatic, but it often creates a better outcome for everyone involved.
That is especially true online, where a sentence can travel far beyond the moment you wrote it. You may forget it in 10 minutes, but someone else may remember it for years. That is a heavy responsibility, even in casual spaces.
It really is. That is why I think one of the most practical peace habits is imagining the person in front of you as real, tired, imperfect, and complicated, just like you. When people become real again, cruelty becomes harder to justify.
That kind of imagination builds empathy. It asks, what might this person be carrying? What stress are they hiding? What fear is shaping their words? Those questions do not excuse harm, but they can stop us from reacting with unnecessary hardness.
And empathy does not mean agreeing with everything. That is an important distinction. You can understand someone without copying them. You can listen without surrendering your beliefs. Peace allows difference. It just refuses dehumanization.
Exactly. Difference is normal. Dehumanization is the problem. Once we stop seeing another person as human, everything gets easier to justify, including cruelty. But if we keep human dignity at the center, the conversation stays more honest.
That is why I think peace begins in language. The words we choose can soften a room or sharpen it. They can lower a wall or build one higher. Even small phrases like maybe, I think, or help me understand can make a huge difference.
Language is powerful because it frames the world. If you say this is a battle, people prepare for war. If you say this is a conversation, people prepare to listen. The frame changes the emotion before the actual content even begins.
That is such a good point, and it connects to something else, self-talk. People are often much harsher with themselves than with anyone else. If peace matters in the world, it also matters in the way we speak to our own mistakes.
Oh, definitely. Some people can be calm with strangers, but brutal with themselves. They replay errors over and over, as if shame will somehow make them better. But learning works better with honesty and patience than with endless self-attack.
So maybe peace is also telling yourself, I made a mistake, but I am not a mistake. That sentence can change everything. It creates space for growth instead of panic, and it lets you move forward without dragging the whole weight of shame.
That is a powerful reframe, and once you learn it personally, it becomes easier to offer the same grace to others. People who know how to calm themselves are usually better at calming a situation before it becomes a full argument.
Which brings us back to the big question. Is peace still possible? I think the answer is yes, but not as a fantasy. Peace is possible as a practice. It is possible as a daily habit, a repeated choice, a way of living with other people.
I agree. We should not pretend the world has no conflict. It does. There are real struggles, real pain, and real injustice. But the existence of conflict does not cancel the possibility of peace. It just means peace has to be chosen carefully.
And maybe that choice begins with smaller things than people expect. A softer reply, a patient breath, a question instead of an accusation, a moment of silence before reacting. Those moments do not solve everything, but they change the direction of the day.
They do. And when enough people practice that kind of change, the culture around them shifts a little. Not instantly, not magically, but steadily. A calmer person can become a calmer family member, a calmer friend, a calmer classmate, a calmer coworker.
That is encouraging because it means nobody is powerless. You may not control the whole world, but you do influence the space right around you. And that influence can be gentle, steady, and meaningful, even if it never becomes famous.
That is where hope lives, honestly. In the small places, in the quiet choices, in the moments when you decide not to add more noise. Peace may not always look heroic, but it often looks like someone refusing to make things worse.
I really like that. Refusing to make things worse is a simple but strong idea. It gives ordinary people a role in something important. You do not have to be perfect to help. You just have to be willing to respond with a little more care.
And care is contagious, too. When one person responds gently, the other person often lowers their shield. Not always, of course, but often enough to matter. A gentle tone can open a path that anger would have blocked immediately.
So, if we had to give listeners one idea to carry today, I think it would be this. Peace does not have to start with a huge event. It can start with one conversation, one breath, one decision to slow down instead of striking back.
Yes, one decision at a time. That is what makes it real. Not a perfect world, not a fantasy, just a human choice repeated again and again until it becomes part of who you are. That is how peace moves from idea to habit.
And maybe that is the most beautiful thing about it. Peace is not only something we hope for someday, it is something we practice today, in the middle of ordinary life, in ordinary speech, with ordinary people who deserve kindness.
So maybe the answer is yes. Peace is still possible, but it will not always be loud, and it will not always be obvious. Sometimes it will look like restraint, sometimes like listening, sometimes like silence, and sometimes like one careful word.
I think that is the perfect place to land, not because everything is solved, but because the path is clearer now. Peace is a daily decision, a habit, a mindset, and a choice we make again and again, even when the world feels noisy.
And if today's conversation gave you one quiet moment of reflection, that already matters. Maybe close your eyes for a second, breathe, and think about the next conversation you will have. You can bring a little more peace into it than you did before.
That's a beautiful challenge. Not to fix the whole world overnight, but to speak with more care, listen with more patience, and react with a little more wisdom. Small choices add up, and peaceful people help create a more peaceful world.
Exactly. And that is a hopeful place to end. Keep the conversation going. Keep asking good questions, and keep making room for calm where you can. We'll see you next time on English Medium.
Bye for now, and remember, Peace often begins where your reaction ends.
And sometimes the strongest thing you can say is nothing at all. Just enough time to choose better.
Stay kind, stay curious, and stay with us.
Until next time, take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Before you go, one last thought. If peace is a practice, then every ordinary day gives us a chance to practice it a little better than yesterday.
And that means your next reply, your next pause, your next breath can matter more than you think.
So keep it simple, keep it human, and keep choosing the calmer path when you can.
That quieter path is often the one that leads somewhere better.
We'll meet you there next time.
Take care and be well.
One more thing. Even if the world feels noisy, you can still be a quiet place for someone else.
And sometimes that is the beginning of peace right there.
Thank you for listening so thoughtfully today.
Really, thank you.
And as always, keep learning with kindness.
We'll talk soon.